When bel'veth came out in 2022, she was notoriously one of the most broken champions on release in League, having over a 55% win rate within the first couple weeks of her maiden voyage. Her insane early game kill pressure combined with her penchant for scaling into late game made her so oppressive at high elo, the player base quickly called for the nerf hammer to be brought down on her. Thankfully, Riot wasted no time responding, although it became apparent that she would have to get nerfed again, and then again, and then again, and then again, and then again. bel'veth got nerfed over and over, with only a single patch in 13.1 buffing her. Having gotten nerfed so many times, you'd think she'd be stuck at the bottom of like 47% win rate, right? Guess what her win rate is in Diamond 2 Plus at the time of writing this? 52%. She still hangs on as one of the most popular and successful junglers at high elo. You'll also happen to find a number of other junglers with a routinely high win rate as well. Kindred, Rengar, Graves, Rek'Sai, Shaco, Viego. What do all of them have in common? Among many other things, an aspect they all share is that they love to fight the other jungler. They thrive off of it. Counter jungling is a fairly common occurrence in high elo. Whenever you see the enemy jungler ganking a side lane, you either want to gank the opposite lane or invade the opposite side of their jungle to steal camps so as to force an exchange. But predator junglers, as I like to call them, have a tendency to not just counter jungle but actively seek out the opposing jungler in an effort to kill them and then steal their camps. What makes predator junglers so successful no matter how often they get nerfed? We'll be discussing all of that for today. To clarify, when I say predator, I don't mean the predator rune, the one that makes you go Five Nights at Freddy's whenever you gank. I'm talking about the predator playstyle, so we should start first by elucidating you guys on what that entails. Longtime viewers may have heard me say the phrase predator jungler in past videos. The point of this video is to explain what they are and what they do at length. There are three main playstyles to the jungle, first being the most common one, ganking. Ganking junglers, as the name implies, are champions who primarily focus on running from lane to lane, ganking enemy laners in the hopes of scoring a macro advantage to then get objectives and whatnot. Those would be Amumu, Vi, Lee Sin, Jarvan, typically anyone with a strong engage tool and or lockdown. While they have decent fighting power, they're usually at their best when fighting in skirmishes like 2v2s and 3v3s. The second playstyle is farming. Farming junglers take advantage of their fast tempo and good clear speed to rack up a significant golden level advantage over their ganking counterparts. Lilia, Shyvana, Master Yi, Freeform, King to a lesser extent, while they are capable of pulling off ganks, their comparatively worse engage and lockdown makes it hard for them to score kills unless the enemy laner is egregiously overextended or their own laners have ganks set up. In exchange, they can take neutral objectives like Dragon, Grubs, and Herald really fast if you leave them unchecked. The third playstyle, however, is Predator. While the smallest group in actual size and acknowledgement by the public consciousness, Predator junglers consist of a pool of champions who can excel at farming and ganking. Only in addition to lanes, they also have a habit of ganking the enemy jungler themselves, oftentimes forcing the laners to come to the jungler's rescue, lest they'll be completely screwed over for the entirety of the game. Predator junglers often get labeled as cheese picks on the basis of them trying to cheese an early lead by catching the enemy jungler off guard and likely somewhat injured from their first clear. However, their capacity for that cheese is what makes them so scary and so dominating when successful at it. Seeing as they're essentially a hybrid between a ganking and farming jungler, only with an extra perk on top of it, here are the champs that I think best fit this category. Shaco, Kindred, bel'veth, Rek'Sai, Hecarim, Rengar, Elise, Viego, Pantheon, Kha'Zix, Nidalee, and Graves depending on the elo. Some Graves players like to power farm, some like to invade. I should mention that Predator junglers can also gank and power farm. They're sort of able to do everything, I guess. What specifically defines a Predator playstyle though? Do they have to score 1v1 kills against their opponent? Not necessarily. However, if and when the situation calls for it, Predators are known to be much more on the draw when going for the hunt. Reason they do so is courtesy of three attributes. First and foremost, their strong 1v1 dueling potential. They can often take the enemy jungler in a head-on fight with or without the element of surprise, and even use the narrow and winding terrain of the jungle to their advantage. Shaco players are known to take Ignite in place of Flash, giving them tremendous combat pressure in the early game, especially if they run Hail of Blades. Rengar has a ton of brushes he can use to stay on top of you and chase you down if you try to run away. Kha'Zix's Q literally doubles in strength when fighting you alone in the jungle, which you almost certainly will be. Hecarim, Rek'Sai, Elise, Pantheon, Nidalee, and Viego have powerful front-loaded burst damage to knock out the enemy jungler, especially if they're already injured from a gank or clearing. Kindred and Graves can make use of their attack range and combat mobility to attack enemies and kite them around. That's not to say other junglers can't 1v1 them, but trying to fight them carries more risk than reward. Second attribute is their ability to hit their target hard and fast. Multiple Predator junglers can rush you down and stay on top of you, giving you no choice but to stand and fight. But if they got the first strike on you, fighting back's practically a fool's errand since you're 1 hit from death while they're still at full HP. The corridors can make it easy for Predators to ambush you, which can sometimes be the deciding move. Bonus points if they can run you down. Again, it's really hard to get away from a Hecarim with Ghost or a Rengar jumping at you from brush to brush. Pantheon's empowered Aegis Assault grants a big surge of movement speed. bel'veth can probably utilize all 4 dashes thanks to a target typically needing to move around in a non-linear fashion to exit the jungle. Final attribute is if they have something that encourages you to fight in the jungle. Not all predators have this, but there's a correlation to it. Rengar, Nidalee, and Kha'Zix have passives that give them more fighting pressure and or tempo when walking through brushes. Shaco and Graves have W's that cover choke points, diminishing the number of escape options you have. Rek'Sai can track enemy movements even without vision of them. Viego's Harrowed Path attaches to walls, giving him more access to increased movement speed and attack speed. Every single one of these champions has something that works better if they're fighting in the jungle as opposed to in an open lane. Being my own categorization, not a formal classification by the game, there's no hard cutoff point between what is or what isn't what. But the TLDR is that Predator junglers are champions that habitually seek out the enemy jungler as their primary target rather than the enemy laners. They essentially have the inverse goal of a ganking jungler. Ganking junglers want to establish priority by taking out the enemy laner so as to free up their own laner to help them take grubs or dragon or something. Whereas Predator junglers go after the enemy jungler so as to eliminate any chance of the objective being contested to begin with. Having defined the archetype, let's discuss it. Predator junglers are extremely common picks in high elo, often being the most common depending on the meta. Their strong baseline pressure affords the freedom to be proactive and establish a lead even if it comes with a great deal of risk. Up in high elo, you'll come across a number of Viego, Nidalee, Elise, Kha'Zix, Rengar, Hecarim, Kindred, and Shaco mains. More importantly, you'll find set junglers potentially spending more time in the enemy jungle than their own. Honestly, even outside of high elo, everyone runs into a smurf who plays a Predator jungler and then spends the entire game stealing all camps and making you flee on sight whenever you see them because they're up 2 levels on you and you're sitting here calling for help. While it's possible to be caught in that situation against a ganking jungler like Xin Zhao or Jarvan, it's most likely to be against a Predator jungler due to them being able to do so without anyone's help. Amumu can be 2 levels above the enemy jungler, but he might not really gain much by hunting them down. Now, what makes them so appealing in high elo, and why do they have consistently high win rates? Predator junglers are popular for one very simple reason. They can establish total control, or in other words, they're the only ones who can completely shut down the other jungler with no method of recourse possible for them. Now more than ever, jungle is about control. It's not about ganks or farm or anything, it's about control. Control of your lanes, control of your own jungle, control of your position. More importantly, the anonymity of your position. Good junglers know how to navigate the map to establish the most control for them to subsequently benefit from it. Control also leads to higher probabilities for success. Something you hear frequently when vying for Dragon or Baron is the term 50-50. For the uninitiated, 50-50 refers to a situation where both junglers have a good chance at securing the objective because both junglers can get in range to land smite. You can 4-throw their team and go for Baron, but if the enemy jungler is still alive, you'll hear your team say don't 50-50. Teams go to great lengths to ensure the enemy jungler is not within range to smite, which is their way of establishing control. Predator junglers are the only ones capable of exerting total control around the map by flat out removing the competition. There's no way they can be punished or counter for their actions if the enemy jungler is dead, right? For example, you're Lee Sin, a ganking jungler. You just scored a double kill bot and are feeling pretty good about it. Then you make your way top to find all 3 camps and void grubs taken by the enemy jungler. Even though you scored a clean gank, you were still punished for it. You didn't do anything wrong here, at least not ostensibly. On the other hand, let's say you're a farming jungler. You rack up a big CS lead and even sneak in a couple dragons for your team, but your top lane got camped and is down 2.5 levels and a full item by 15 minutes. You were able to steal tons of enemy camps and work towards a dragon soul, yet you still got punished for it. Therein lies the reason why Predator junglers are so good. If they kill the enemy jungler first, there's no way anything they do has any chance of getting punished. They can take dragon, enemy camps, void grubs, whatever the hell they want and get away with it. One might say, oh, but the enemy laners can rotate and try to catch you on your way out. But that's a very tough decision few laners are willing to make since they have to consider the opportunity cost of leaving lane and giving up priority to bail their jungler out. Even if they try to contest void grubs or dragon, the deck is stacked against them as they don't have smite while you still do. A Predator jungler can make it next to impossible for their opponent to navigate their own jungle comfortably, which can and often does cascade into lasting consequences for the safety and condition of the 3 lanes. Once you reach mid-game and are running around the map, Predators can still hunt down your jungler's attempts to farm. Worse yet, they'll now have the assistance of their laners to rotate with them and chase you out of your own jungle, perpetually leaving your team starved of buffs and jungle camp golden experience. The jungler is typically the one who is meant to help and assist the laners, either by giving them a lead to snowball or giving them a hand if they fall behind. They are your reinforcements, your supply line, but if your supply line gets cut off, you're in deep trouble. Your team not only can no longer walk through the jungle without jeopardizing their life, but they also can't even walk that far out their lane, since your entire jungle has now become an access point for the enemy jungler, and by extension their team, to catch you out. It's the worst case scenario that we all experience on a day-to-day basis, where your team feels like they can't do anything because if they so much as walk up, they get f***ed. This is the reason why champions like bel'veth, despite having been nerfed over and over again, still manages a positive win rate. So long as the Predator jungler can do their job of gaining control, it doesn't matter if they do a bit less damage or are a bit less tanky. To give you a point of reference, let's take a look at this clip back in Worlds 2017. EDG is up 9 kills to 0 on SKT. SKT's down literally 10k gold, but through a surprise engage by Wolf, they were able to wombo combo EDG squad and ultimately win the game from quite possibly the worst deficit in pro play history. Predator junglers are essentially micro versions of that play. It doesn't matter if you do 20 less damage or have 2 seconds more on your cooldown or mitigate 20 less damage. Utilizing the element of surprise is equivalent to being twice the strength of your opponent. In the early game, despite years of Riot baby-proofing the jungle, most junglers still drop to around roughly 50 to 70% health and are focusing on burning their abilities and whatnot on their camp. As soon as you see a Wukong EWP the red buff and he's at half HP while you're at like 80% or higher with all your abilities on deck, that's a wet dream for any Predator jungler, and being Predator junglers, they have sufficient kill power and stick potential to not just get a free kill, but also steal their buffs, putting them in a massive deficit within the first few minutes of the game. Obviously, towards the mid to late game, you have the items and wherewithal to 1v1 the enemy jungler regardless of where you are or what you're doing. Having said all that, there is a risk to playing a Predator jungler or a Predator playstyle, key of which being what happens if you fail. Say you overextend or get spotted trying to invade and the enemy team collapses on you. Not only did you just hand yourself to the enemy team on a silver platter, but you gave the enemy jungler an opportunity to steal your stuff. The blade cuts both ways. If you succeed, you win big. Conversely, if you fail, you lose big. This is why if you check any tier list and go to silver or gold elo and then check jungle, you'll find virtually every Predator junglers at the bottom, all with 45 to 47% win rates or sometimes even lower. Predator junglers lose against farming junglers when it comes to clearing, and they also get outperformed by ganking junglers when it comes to clearing. The one advantage they do have, however, is the potential for total control, but to accomplish that, you have to take a massive risk. You have to have a strong intuition on where the enemy jungler starts, where they're going, how long it will take for them to be there, and chief of all, how you can intercept them without being spotted, and it's been getting much harder to do that. Back in around Season 5 or something, most people would just chill in lane and AFK until minions crashed into each other, maybe take a piss or browse Twitter for a minute. Now though, in virtually every game, your team's either guarding entry points into your jungle, grouping up for a level 1 invade, or trying to scout out where the enemy jungler is starting, typically wanting raptors to check. They're specifically trying to keep tabs on the jungler so as to avoid the outcome of losing control. There's nothing more damning to a team, physically and mentally, than a jungler being solo killed by the other jungler. Top mid and bot lanes intend feed all the time and still pull things back under control either by taking advantage of reckless overconfidence by their lane opponents or through ganks. But almost never does a jungler mount a comeback if they get solo killed in their jungle. They're forever stuck playing catch up and seldom if ever get the chance to because who watches a watchman? Okay, that quote doesn't really make a lot of sense in this context because it's usually in reference to checks and balances and abuse of power, but humor me for a moment and interpret it as who helps the helper. The fundamental strength of a Predator jungler lies in their ability to cut off your supply line, your 911, your Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue team, making it that much harder for laners to mount a comeback from a poor start because their own jungler is trying to do the same. It's what makes them among the most, if not the most terrifying class of junglers in the game. Played masterfully, you literally can't stop them. That concludes my discussion on Predator junglers. How do you guys feel about them? Do you agree with my stance on them, or do you think I'm overrating them? Feel free to share in the comments. That's it for today, so if you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter @Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my other archetype discussions if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.